Yo, what is going on, guys? Extrafusion here, and today we are going to be ranking every single episode in The Walking Dead Season 8 from worst to best. I've been excited to do this season for quite some time now because I do consider this to be one of the most underrated seasons of the entire show. I actually really enjoy this season. It's usually ranked towards the very bottom on most people's lists, usually like the last spot or at least one of the last spots. I think the hate for this season is just a little bit extreme, honestly, in a lot of senses, and especially when I went back to it recently to, look through all the episodes and rewatch them, and so I can do this ranking accurately. I've realized there's a lot of great episodes in this season, and only a couple that I consider to be really just not good episodes. And in the middle is just like, okay. It's a very interesting season in how it's set up like that. But I think as a whole, overall, it's a pretty freaking great season, honestly. It's not my favorite, not top 2, not top, I don't even know if it's top 3. It might be. We'll have to rank them later on, obviously, but when it comes to just the episodes themselves, there's a lot of great stuff in this season, man. A lot of great stuff. A lot of the bad stuff just comes down to missed opportunities. You'll notice a lot in these episodes, I'm gonna say, could have been more. They could have done more with this. They missed opportunities were here or there, or they could have made this battle a little bit cooler. That's the majority of this season, is just missed opportunities, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's so much better than a lot of the other stuff from the show. I just feel like a higher budget could have maybe increased some of these missed opportunities a little bit more. They could have done some cooler things here and there, and it could have been all around a lot better, but I do think as a story perspective, it was still really freaking great. So let's get into this ranking. Coming at the last spot, number 16, is going to be episode 6, which was titled The King, the Widow, and Rick. So this is one of my least favorite episodes of the whole show, actually, not just this season. It has like one cool scene, I think, when they have Rosita and Michonne in that little place trying to kill the saviors that were in there, or at least stop them from bringing the noise-making car thing to, obviously, the sanctuary. But the whole scene felt kind of unnecessary because, they stop it anyways, so it's like, oh, okay, well, they didn't go anywhere from there, you know what I mean? So I felt like it was just really odd the way that whole thing was set up. I wasn't really a big fan of that, but Rosita killing the dude with the RPG was pretty cool, I gotta say. It had a really great opening as well with a really good soundtrack. I really enjoyed the opening scene, how they were reading all the letters that all the communities were giving to each other, kind of talking about the war and the progress they've made from the past couple episodes. But the rest of it was just, man, you got Rick going to the scavengers, which I still think was a really stupid decision by Rick. I don't believe that Rick would make that decision, because Rick, he knows the scavengers. He knows how unpredictable they are. They could have just shot him in the head right there. How does he know they won't? He doesn't. So I felt like that was a little just odd for him to make that decision. And then you had some scenes with Carl and Sadiq in the woods, which at that point, they didn't seem like they were important scenes. Obviously, later on, they end up being important, but they were just scenes that I wasn't really entertained by, by any bit. The good stuff I did think in this episode was the talk between Carol and Ezekiel. They had a really emotional talk with one another, and, Carol was telling him how real he feels to her, even though he's putting on this part for everyone, because he started to feel like everything was going wrong after episode 4, of course. So they had a really good talk there, but the rest of the episode, it's just meh. It's just meh. Coming in number 15th spot, I got episode 7, which was titled Time for After. Another episode I didn't like very much. They had some cool Eugene scenes at the sanctuary where he was kind of going back and forth between, kind of being on the Negan side or between his own people, but obviously what Daryl's group did by bringing the truck through the entire place, it just brought the walkers in, and it was just a bad time, right? I still think that that whole plan set by Daryl and Tara was just really odd. It didn't feel right for those characters. I think it semi-made sense for Tara's character, but for Daryl, it was like, no, especially after getting Glenn killed. You'd think he would not try to do stuff like this, you know what I mean? He would be more sticking to the plan, but I didn't like that at all. There's some scenes with the scavengers, which they were fine scenes, I guess, but they were just, the same problem I had with last episode. I didn't understand why Rick would have gone to the junk people. It just didn't make sense to me for his character and what he knows about these people and such. But they had a really cool ending when Rick eventually escaped from the scavengers, and he was looking in front of the sanctuary, and the walkers were just all gone, and that was he was freaking out. It was a good way to build up to the mid-season finale, but at the end of the day, it didn't have much to it this episode. It was a lot of the Eugene stuff at the Sanctuary that was like the main part of the episode. Some of it was alright, but most of it I didn't really like that much. Coming in number 14th spot, I got episode 11, which was titled Dead or Alive Or. So I looked through this entire episode, right? I really enjoyed the last scene when Negan got the plan to use the guts trick, and that was a really cool scene, how he was like putting the Lucille against the Walker's face, getting all the guts and gore on it. That was a really cool scene. I really enjoyed that scene. But the rest of the episode, I didn't like it. So you had the Gabe and Carson stuff, Gabe and Dr. Carson, right? First of all, that was dragged on way too long. I'll admit that. And the whole butthole vision thing just pissed me off. And what I mean by butthole vision, I mean they kept doing these POV shots from Gabriel so we can see what he's seeing. It looked so bad though. I don't want to see through this guy's vision for like a good 2 minutes of the episode. If you add them all up, it's probably about 2 minutes of the damn episode. It's like, just, we know he's not seeing well. Show it once to us, so we're like, okay, we understand. And don't show it again. We get it. He has butthole vision. Just stop showing us it. You know what I mean? They had a cool scene though with the bear traps. Gabriel was like freaking out around the bear traps, and then he shot the walker. That was a pretty cool scene. But then Carson dies in the end, and then Gabriel gets sent back to the Sanctuary. So it felt like all those scenes were worthless. They really were. Tara and Dwight stuff, it made me not like Tara in this moment, just what she was doing. But I did think it was important for those characters and the growth of them. And they had some cool scenes in like a swamp as well within this episode, but that's really all. Everything else about the episode I didn't really like too much. So yeah, these last bottom 3 episodes I really don't like. Next episode, we're getting to the better stuff though. And like I said, coming into number 13th spot, we got episode 5, which is titled The Big Scary You. Much better. This is when the episodes start getting pretty good in this list, and I actually enjoy them. I don't think this is a great episode, but it's definitely a big improvement. Like, I think the jump between 14 to 13, these spots, is a pretty big jump, I gotta say. So The Big Scary You was a villain episode, so it primarily focused on the Sanctuary and the villains there. And obviously they had one scene with Rick and Daryl, and they like fought, and then they got the thing to blow up on accident. That was a cool scene, I guess. It was just to get that, truck to blow up so they couldn't have the supplies in there. But other than that, it was fine. I liked a lot of the Negan and Gabe talks in the trailer. Those scenes were all fantastic, and it's what pushes this episode up. But a lot of the other talks in the Sanctuary did kind of drag on a bit. You just had, the whole round table with Simon, Eugene, Dwight, Regina, all those characters just talking. They were good dialogue. I enjoyed that, but it just didn't feel like it progressed the story all that much. But like I said, the Negan and Gabe stuff was great development for Negan, so I was all down for it. They had some good Dwight scenes as well for his development. That's really all. The episode didn't have too much to it. I do think it could have been kind of pieced into another episode. I didn't think we needed a whole episode like this, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. So coming number 12 spot, I got episode 3, which was titled Monsters. So this episode was pretty action-packed. I mean, the first couple episodes were very action-packed. This one had like this one scene where it was just cutting between all sorts of action. So you had the Rick and Daryl scenes were all great. We had a lot of Rick and Daryl in this episode. They were all great. It started off with Rick and Morales talking for a while, and I enjoyed those scenes. I think the whole point of bringing Morales back, a lot of people didn't understand it. It made sense why they did it. 2 things. One, it was a cool Easter egg for longtime fans of the show, right? Cool, like, fan service, I guess. But the other reason was it was to show Rick that there are good saviors, and the best way to do that is to show him someone who he knows used to be good. And it puts a name to them. It humanizes them. They already were doing that in the last episode, but this is even humanizing them even more to make it a harder decision for Rick to want to kill more of them, you know what I mean? So I really did like that, but I do think they underused him. I think they could have used him. I always thought maybe the actor just wasn't available, so I let it go. But a recent article came out where the actor actually was talking, and when he was like, I actually wanted to do more. I was kind of disappointed that they only wanted me for one little thing. So when I heard about that, I was like, you know what, they actually could have used him more, but I guess he really wasn't important. His main purpose was what I just said, so you didn't really need to spend more time with him, but I do think they could have done something interesting with him. I don't think the actor was that experienced, so maybe they just were afraid of putting him into more stuff when they know the actor isn't very experienced. He might not be doing a very good job on many different scenes. That's a huge possibility, but there was cool scenes like when they were shooting at the different people within the hallway, and it was nice action, right? And then you had Daryl just popping that one dude at that one part of the episode. Eric's death was pretty emotional and sad for Aaron's sake. Obviously, the fans didn't really care too much because he's just a random character that we don't really see too much, but for Aaron's sake, to see him emotional about it was really upsetting. And the other stuff about the episode was the Morgan and Jesus fight, which I wasn't a fan of. I get Morgan's going crazy, but like it was just there to be like a cool fight scene, but we didn't need that. You know, we know Morgan's going crazy, like, you know, you don't need a whole... It was a cool fight, though, I gotta say. It felt like we didn't need it, you know what I mean? But that's all I gotta say for this episode. It's not a bad episode or anything, it's just not nearly as good as some of the other ones in this season. Coming number 11th spot, I got episode 14, which was titled Still Gotta Mean Something. I used to like this episode a lot more when it first came out, but recently, when I rewatched it, I was like, I don't like it as much. I love the scenes with Rick and Morgan within the bar, and obviously killing Jared was a really good scene. I do think them killing them was obviously messed up because they were helping them, but it made sense for the characters in that moment. They don't want to take any goddamn chances. They were going there to kill all of them, right? So that's what they did, and I thought it just showed how broken these two characters are, which I really, really loved. Everything in that with those two characters in this episode was great. But then everything else, you had Carol looking for Henry for half the episode, which it was to show how much Carol cares about Henry, even though she was trying not to care about Henry. That's what it mainly shows, which I guess makes sense, right? But I just, the scenes themselves just weren't too entertaining, especially like they had some talk between Henry and Morgan, which was, no, that was a nice scene. That was actually a nice scene. Not Henry and Morgan. Morgan and Carol had a nice talk. That was actually a nice scene, but that's really all that went down this episode when you really look at it. You also had the scenes with Negan and Jadis back at the junkyard. I didn't really like those scenes, even though I love Negan and I love almost every scene with Negan. It felt weird to me. It's like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that entire... It was to show the audience the helicopter, but we've already seen it. They could have shown us another way. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem like it was a necessary thing. But I was okay with it because it's Negan, obviously. So that definitely holds it up a decent amount, I gotta say. Even if the scenes themselves weren't that entertaining, you know what I mean? Coming in number 10th spot, episode 15, which was titled Worth. So this was the penultimate episode of the season. The beginning and the end of the episode were so good. Like, literally the best things about the episode. Both of Carl's letters, they were beautifully written. It was good soundtracks for both of them as well. You had Rick reading it, that was so emotional, seeing him read it, and the dialogue between it was great. And then at the end, Michonne reading Negan's letter to him also was great. They were both great freaking scenes, and they were really good to set up for the finale. Everything in between this episode, though, they had some good stuff. I did like the Negan versus Simon stuff that was going on throughout the episode. It was kind of like 3D chess going on. It was just really interesting. I don't really like how Simon died, though. I felt like it was anticlimactic for his character to have Negan be the one to take him out. I know it kind of does show the better side of Negan, that like he's not okay with someone who's, you know, doing this shit, but I feel like it would have been more fitting for like a character like, I don't know, Maggie or Jadis, someone that Simon, like, you know, actually hurt a lot to kill. I don't know, I didn't like how Negan was the one to do it, even if it was still a really, really great confrontation between the two throughout the episode. And the whole capturing Negan or Eugene thing, how, you know, Daryl and Rosita captured him, I didn't like those scenes. I didn't see the point of it. Eugene, you know, they kind of treat him like shit in those scenes, and it was like, why did that make him turn in the next episode? You know what I mean? But I guess maybe just seeing them again made him change his mind a little bit. I never really understood it that much. Maybe someone can help me out with that, but I think they could have done something else with those scenes. I was okay with having Eugene get captured and then escaping, but maybe different types of dialogue, maybe something more impactful to the characters. But it was still a pretty good episode. I think the beginning and the end of the episode really does hold it up to being much, much better. Coming in at number 9 spot, I got episode 1, the premiere, which was titled Mercy. I didn't like this episode when I first saw it. I was disappointed by it. But I rewatched it multiple times since my first time watching it, and I like it a lot more now. I think it gets into the action quick, right? it's just kind of it's cutting between stuff. I think I didn't like how fast-paced it was. It was so fast-paced, this episode. Like, they didn't give you a time to breathe. It was just cutting to the next scene, to the next scene, to the next scene, to the next scene, to the next scene. There was no in-betweens, and I wasn't a big fan of that, even if it was good for I think it was great for the story, especially for being a premiere episode. I think it was good. It was interesting storytelling technique, how they were cutting between all sorts of crap. There was, you know, the dream sequences that we didn't learn about till later on, with, you know, Rick and such in the future, but it was obviously just what Carl wanted for the future, what we learned about later. Really confusing episode, which I'm okay with that. And I think they could have made the Battle of the Sanctuary a little bit cooler, maybe last a little bit longer, maybe have more people getting hurt. I understand that wasn't the purpose of it. They were just trying to bring the herd down on top of them. Therefore, that's why they didn't stay there longer. But I feel like something should have gone wrong. Maybe some stuff did go wrong, like Gabriel getting captured and such. But it could have been a little bit more intense, I think, if they kind of put more into it. Maybe had more saviors coming out firing back rather than just having some snipers in the windows and that's about it, and not even showing the snipers at all. And a lot of people complained about, like, oh, Rick couldn't hit a shot. I understand. It was named for Negan. They were just aiming above their heads and they were shooting the windows. And I understood all of that. I know a lot of people didn't understand that, and that's why they hated on this episode. I always understood it. That's not why I wasn't a big fan of this episode at first. I just think maybe the starting battle could have been a little bit better. But the episode as a whole, I do like how it gets into that action quick. I'm glad they did that, you know what I mean? I think this is a fine episode. I don't think it's great or anything, but I think it's a fine episode. Coming to the number 8 spot, episode 10, which was titled The Lost and the Plunderers. This episode had some great dialogue. Not much action, but great dialogue. Some of the best dialogue of the season. The Negan and Rick talk on the walkie at the end of the episode, probably my favorite scene of the entire episode, one of my favorite scenes of the whole season. It was a really good talk between the two. Rick having to tell Negan what happened to Carl, and Negan being, like, kind of devastated by it. Like, it was weird to see that, but I was glad they did that, kind of humanizing Negan a little bit. And then, of course, the garbage people being slaughtered by Simon's people. That was great. I love how they handled that. And then Jadis actually giving her some character, giving her some purpose to the story. Great. This literally made me go from not giving a flying shit about Jadis and the Scavengers to actually really liking their inclusion into the story. Honestly, one single episode did that. That means it's a good episode, if one single episode is able to do that. Only scenes I didn't like about this episode was Enid and Aaron back at the Oceanside. They had this talk, and everything with Oceanside this season I didn't like. I'll be honest. Oceanside was underutilized and just wasted in this season. I'll be honest. They should use them more. I'm glad they did in season 9. But what was the point introducing them if you're going to use them like once or twice? You know what I mean? It just didn't seem useful or worth it, I guess. But everything else about this episode, freaking great. Dialogue, fantastic. They had that opening scene when the Alexandria was like still in flames pretty much, and they were trying to put some stuff out with the fire extinguishers. Great music as well. Just an emotional episode coming after such an impactful episode right before, you know what I mean? And speaking of emotional episodes, coming to number 7 spot, I got episode 4, which was titled Some Guy. This episode, I think people like a lot more than I do, actually. Like, most people put this much higher on the favorites of the season. I really love the impact it shows on war. Like, I was really wanting that because this is a war season. We need to see the impact of war, meaning people have to die. Ezekiel loses his whole entire fucking army, except for, like, Jerry and Carol and stuff like that. But, like, literally everyone else just dies in this one single episode. Holy shit. Well, I guess kind of the last episode kind of leading into this one, but holy shit, right? The way the episode starts was beautifully directed, and the gore of all these people's death, like, there's a 50 caliber bullets going through them. That was a really good job by the, department, or I don't know who works with that, the costume department. Whoever does the gore, Greg Nicotero and stuff like that, they usually handle that. It was beautifully done. It was just, you see people's, like, there's giant ass holes in their body, their arms and legs ripped off. That's realistic and great. And them turning slowly, Ezekiel just walking through this field of just bodies of his own people was so well done. So well done, man. Shiva's death at the end of the episode was, I think it could have been done a little bit better, honestly. Like, the problem I had with it was, realistically speaking, would a tiger be held down by like 15 to 20 walkers? Probably not. So maybe to make it more realistic, either make it way more walkers, maybe actually have her put up a fight, or just have her be gunned down by saviors at some point, you know what I mean? I feel like that would have made more sense, but I don't know, maybe like they come across some saviors, some loose saviors in the road, they shoot her up, and then Ezekiel just goes ham on those saviors and kills them or something like that. I feel like that would have made more sense than having her just die by some walkers. But whatever, I was okay with it because it was an emotional scene, it was impactful, and it further pushed Ezekiel from going to this king to just some guy, pretty much, which is the whole purpose of this entire episode. And the whole chase scene with Rick and Daryl chasing these guys could have been better, I think. It was a little odd the way the 50 cal bullets wasn't like destroying the car Rick was in. But if you look past realisticness, it was still a cool scene to have. And the rest of the episode was nice, seeing Jerry come splitting that guy in two. That was just a sick scene. And yeah, the rest of the episode, though, was kind of slow. You just had Ezekiel being dragged around by this, like, iDubbbz looking guy the whole time. And that was okay. It was okay stuff. I think this is a pretty great episode overall. And I think some of those scenes, especially the opening, is what pushes it much higher. So coming number 6 spotting episode 8, the mid-season finale, which was titled How It's Gotta Be. Every episode from here is, I think, great. Probably top, like, 30 worthy, which that's pretty freaking great. The 6 episodes from this season are all within, like, I would say top 30, probably top 40 episodes of the entire show. I'm not even lying. How It's Gotta Be had the bombing of Alexandria, which was the highlight of the episode. Just seeing Carl going through Alexandria with bombs going off. But again, I do think there was some missed opportunities there. I would have liked it better if they had someone die by the bomb, get exploded like they did in the comics. Oh well, it's okay. I do think the explosions were dope as hell though, seeing everything happen, just everything just blowing up. Some of it was a little unrealistic though. They were shooting these little tiny grenade launchers. They weren't shooting like RPG missiles. And some of the explosions were just way too big for these tiny grenades they were probably shooting out. So I think that was a little oddly unrealistic. I don't know. But like I said, it's a TV show. Who the fuck cares? It was still really cool seeing Carl going through Alexandria with the slow music and everything. And they had the Carl's theme returning, which was awesome to hear. Rick versus Negan was great as well, although there was a little odd directing style there. How Rick, instead of using the right side of the bat, he used the back end. But I don't really care. It was still an awesome fight scene between the two, and especially with the music ramping up and how, you know, he was swinging at him and he hit him in the arm. Like, holy shit, that was really cool. And then you have Michonne slicing up the one dude that was attacking her. The Carl bite reveal I actually really like, even though I didn't like the idea of killing Carl at first. After seeing the outcome of it, I'm okay with it. I think Henry was a great replacement for the Judith, or not the Judith, the Lydia Whisper storyline. I think he was a great replacement, and Judith has been a great replacement for just being the Grimes child. So I don't need Carl. I have no interest in him being in the story anymore. I was fine with him dying here. At first I wasn't because I didn't know the outcome, but after seeing it, I don't really care. I actually really liked how they did the bite reveal and how it was shown. It was shocking, it was impactful, it made you go, holy fucking shit. Which is what, you know, scenes like this should do to you. Dwight shooting up those saviors was pretty dope as well. I did like those scenes. Like I said, there could have just been more though. We could have had more in this episode. It was the mid-season finale. I would have liked more battle-esque stuff because it is a war season. The Kingdom stuff was kind of boring. I'll be honest, they had some scenes there. I didn't really care for the Kingdom stuff. And the Hilltop stuff on the road was fine, but that one scene was just weirdly shot. A lot of weirdly shot things in this season. Where Simon shot some guy in the back. We had no idea. We couldn't tell who the hell it was. We just had to assume it was the guy in the back from before. But the way they shot it, it could have been Jesus getting shot. How were we supposed to know? Or Diane maybe was back there? I forget who was back there. But whoever was back there next to Neil, which was the character who actually did die. Why not make it more clear? I don't get it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't get how they watch that and they say, oh, that's fine. They'll know who it is. No! And this is not a Season 8 problem. A lot of other seasons have done this as well. But oh well, still a great episode. I really enjoyed it, so let's move on. Coming number 5 spot, episode 2, which was titled The Damned. I don't get how this episode is so much hate. I don't get how it has a low rating in IMDb. I just don't get it. Everyone was asking for action, right? They were asking for it. Last season was very, very plain in the action department. This season comes, first 2 episodes, bam, episode 2. This is the longest amount of action we've ever had in one single episode. From start to finish, just straight action. And I was fine with that. A lot of people say it's just mindless action. Okay, that's what you guys were asking for. There was still story to it, but the action itself was a payoff for all the buildup in last season. This was showing us the impacts of the war, showing us what was happening. And it was really, really great. You had the action between Aaron's group, which was a lot of Alexandrians at that one outpost, which was really well directed. You had some really cool overhanging shots of the battle, people shooting each other. Wow. And then they were like turning and stuff slowly, and people were getting, bitten. And you see the one scene where Eric gets shot, and then you reveal that, holy shit. You had stuff with some of the Hilltoppers, as well as Morgan, Diane, and Tara and stuff, and they're at these one outpost that they went to in season 6, and they're taking that out. It's much more close quarters as opposed to the other battle, which is a little bit more, outwardly. This is still also pretty great scenes. Morgan being a complete badass Terminator in this episode, killing at least like 8 or 9 guys in this one episode, was probably the highlight of the entire episode. Rick versus that one savior was another great highlight, a really well directed scene between the two characters fighting each other, and then Rick killing the dude and then seeing the baby. That was impactful, showing him that he just killed the father of someone just trying to protect his child. Impacts to the war, man. Impacts to the damn war. Only thing I don't like about this episode, only thing, is Jesus' character. Why, man? He was sitting there. Okay, look. This guy pisses himself, right? And I understand not wanting to kill him because he's surrendering, right? But after he fakes you guys out, grabs Jesus, puts a gun to his head, even after that, you're still gonna keep him alive? Jesus, really? Like, I get trying to keep people alive, but when they don't even surrender during a war, come on. It just felt unlike his character, because previously in the same episode, he shot a guy in the back of the head when they were first coming into the place. That's so out of character for him. I know he is this all life is precious kind of guy, but if he's okay with popping guys in the back of the head, why is he not okay with killing a guy who just attacked you? You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense to me. But everything else about the episode was really good. You had a couple scenes that were oddly directed and could have been a little shot better, I guess, but who cares, dude? It was fucking great action and it was awesome. It was a cool episode for someone who loves action-packed moments, and this had it. Actually, you do have some Ezekiel, Carol, Kingdom scenes, which were not that great in this episode. I forgot about those scenes. They were just them walking around looking for this loose savior, but they were very minimal. There's only a couple scenes like that. And then Morales at the end of the episode, cool, you know what I mean? Cool, whatever. But I thought it was a great episode, so yeah. Coming number 4 spot, episode 16, the finale, which was titled Wraith, or Wrath, or whatever the hell you want to pronounce it. I think it's Wrath. It is Wrath. I just said Wraith for some reason. So, this is the finale, right? But it's not one of my favorites, and that happens in some seasons where the finale isn't that high up, which actually is pretty high up. I don't think it's that low. But I think this episode is much better than what most people give it, though. Most people say it was really underwhelming. I do think the action portion of it was underwhelming, like for being the finale of an all-out war season. We should have gotten a lot more battle, you know what I mean? We should have gotten more. I think there's a lot of different ways they could have done that. I'm not going to go in depth as to how they could have fixed it because we'll be here forever, but there's definitely more stuff they could have done with the battle. It could have been longer as well, like the battle stuff. It could have been more, right? Also, the dialogue between Rick and Negan and their little fight scene could have been more. But everything else in this episode I really, really liked. It was just missed opportunities. That's about it. But Eugene messing with the bullets and that whole scene, how that was shot, was really, really well done. The intense lead up to the battle, how they were like, going through the plans and stuff like that. And they were, going to the different spots. They found the one group of guys that killed them all. And then going to that awesome location of the field was really, really cool. Rick versus Negan was great. I liked it. It was just, a lot of people just criticize it for just 2 old men fighting around a tree, but it's like, I loved it for not only the music, some of the dialogue. Like I said, they could have had more. I think they could have done a lot more with it. And I do like how he slit his throat. I do like how he saved him afterwards. It just fit well for me, I guess. I didn't need it to be this grand fight like Thanos versus Iron Man or something, but it was still impactful and good. I just wanted more there, you know what I mean? I think the whole episode can be defined by I wanted more, And then the rebuilding after the battle was pretty great. You had like 10 to 15 minutes of just rebuilding and a lot of epilogue type stuff for the future of the show. I love the scenes with Negan, sitting there with the things around his wrap, and they were talking to him and how they said you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell. It kind of lets the audience know that they are not letting Negan just live freely. They're going to have him rot in a cell pretty much to kind of justify keeping him alive. So I like this finale. Like I said, missed opportunities, but still a good finale. Coming number 3 spot, episode 13, which was titled Do Not Send Us Astray. This was the Hilltop Battle episode. Same thing, missed opportunities, could have been a little bit longer of a battle, but still one of my favorite battles in the entire show. Not better than the Too Far Gone battle or anything, but still a really great battle though. I loved how they were using the little, gutted up weapons to try to, mess with them and stuff. And seeing that one scene where Rick comes out with the AK and he's just popping everyone, that was so dope. And he breaks out the hatchet, and you could have had a little bit more to that though as well, but for an opening battle to this episode, it was really, really great. And then the walkers turning at night. Again, you could have shot a little bit better, directed a little bit better. I keep saying that because, like I said in the beginning of the video, a lot of just things that could have been better. They were fine the way they were, but you see how much better it could have been, and that's what pisses you off. Probably with a better budget, like I've said a million times. But I still really enjoyed it. I didn't like how Henry was the one to let the people out, and the reason why is because I really don't like how often this show uses dumb little kids to, further the plot. You know what I mean? They use them as plot points because they're dumb little kids, and they know people can't criticize it because, oh, it's just a dumb little kid. He's gonna do stuff like that. They do that way too much in this show. They did it with the Whisper. The whole entire Whisper arc was literally funded by Henry's stupid actions. It gets a little excessive. I'm okay with it every now and then, but it's a little excessive. The amount of times they utilize kids to do stupid things impact the plot. Oh my god. But I do like how this episode had all the characters in one location in the hilltop, and that's when the battle happened, and obviously the walkers turning into night. They were all together. Seeing them all together for the first time this entire season, actually last 2 seasons, was fantastic. Fantastic to see everyone in the same location. Muy bien, and I really enjoyed that a lot, I gotta say. And they did that again with season 10 recently, how they were all together at the hilltop. Hilltop just seems to be, honestly, more popular than freaking Alexander. I mean, they're not all that hilltop actually, just most of them are. Not all of them, obviously. But I do like how they utilize hilltop a lot. I think hilltop's one of the cooler locations in the show. I really like it, but yeah, I think it's a great episode, man. Coming number 2 spot, episode 12, which was titled The Key. Most people would put this at number 1. Most people would, but I'm not. I don't think this is the best episode, but I do think it's the second best. Rick versus Negan, that's what this whole episode basically was. Fantastic. Fan-frickin-tastic. Missed opportunities in this case, probably 1 or 2, but for the most part, no. I think it was good just the way it was, honestly. It was really fucking great. So, it starts off with Rick crashing into Negan with the car, and then he brings up the AK, and people criticize this scene for oh, he should have shot Negan. No, if you rewatch the scene, it's pretty clear as to why he wasn't able to hit Negan. But I love that, and he runs in, he takes a dive when Negan swings at him, and then they get into this big brawl, and then they're walking through. The dialogue is so good between the 2 characters when they get down to the basements, and then they have another fight at the end of the episode with Flaming Lucille. Awesome, man. Everything with that was awesome. Simon and Dwight scenes were pretty good as well. Then you had Maggie, Michonne, Rosita, Enid coming across Georgie, and they have the whole key to a future thing, which is obviously important for Maggie's exit within season 9, as well as for just the stuff they built in season 9. Everything comes from this book, I'm assuming. That's where all the hand-drawn schematics for the windmills and such are. Important stuff. Really, this episode was probably one of the better episodes of this season. I think a lot of people agree with me on that. But number one, the best episode of season 8, in my opinion. I love this episode. That is episode 9, which was titled Honor. This is Carl Grimes' final episode, and I've always criticized Chandler Riggs' acting in many different cases. I do think he could have done a lot better in many different places, but I think for his final episode, he was freaking great in this episode. Everyone was, honestly. Andrew Lincoln, Denai Greer, they were all really, really good. with, you know, utilizing their acting abilities to just be emotional, man. Emotional. I cried in this episode. Most people did. But I loved how they split up between the two stories. They had this Carl stuff with him dying, as well as the Ezekiel Morgan stuff of the kingdom, right? And the reason why this works, a lot of people say it doesn't work. It's weird. They're going between these emotional stuff to this action-packed, scary, like Morgan's hunting down this guy's stuff. Reason why it works is because Henry, right? Henry kills Gavin, just straight up kills him, but back of the neck, right? And the reason why I knew after this episode that they were going to turn Henry into the new Carl is because they made it so Carl's theme started playing right after Henry kills Gavin. And I wanted to make a video on this, but I never did because I'd never seen anyone talk about it. Henry kills Gavin, and they have Carl's theme play, except it's the same theme, except for the last note of the theme. It plays like Carl's theme, but the last note is deeper, it's darker, it's lower tone, making it seem like this was going to be a darker version of Carl, which didn't really happen, to be honest. You know, Henry in season 9 wasn't really that dark of a character, but I felt like that's what they were going for, which I really liked. Or maybe it just was signifying different, maybe, I don't know, but regardless, I do like how they utilized it because it's very different. Carl's there talking about how you can keep some savers alive, you don't have to kill them all. And then you have Henry just killing one, you know what I mean? One that didn't really do much wrong, honestly. Gavin didn't do shit, right? He was just there, he was just doing his job, he didn't kill anyone, at least as what we've seen. So, I love that a lot. And the dialogue between Carl and Rick and Michonne and Daryl and Judith and Sadiq, so freaking great. So freaking great. And the action as well with the kingdom stuff was great as well. Seeing Carol and Morgan take out sabers like badasses was fantastic to watch. This episode is memorable to me. I think it's in my top 10 favorite episodes of the entire show. I know a lot of people don't agree with me. A lot of people rate this episode low just because Carl died in it, but that's bias as hell to give an episode a bad rating just because your favorite character died in it or whatever. But I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm putting it number 1 for that reason. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the Season 8 ranking, and let me know your opinions in the comment section below. Which episodes are your favorite, which episodes are your least favorite. We still have Season 9 to do, but we're not going to do Season 10 until we get the finale because it just wouldn't make sense to do it without the full season, you know what I mean? So whenever we get the finale, that's when eventually I will do it. But for now, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.